What's going on, everybody? It's me, Mark. And on today's episode of Blerdkast, we're going to do something a little different. Today, we are going to talk about cosplay photography. We're going to kind of give a little in-depth behind the scene look on what it's like to be a cosplay photographer, what it's like for us on good days and bad days, and some of the things we have to go through. This is, again, personally kind of something I wanted to kind of throw together since I started doing podcasting. And I have a great pantheon of guests on from different backgrounds and different parts of the world, even to give their expertise on the show. So why don't we go ahead and begin and introduce the panelists? We'll start with ladies. We'll go ladies first.
Hello, I'm Patricia Burns, and I'm a cosplay photographer. Now, my story is a little different because my cosplay was influenced by, I call him my mentor, Brandon Jackson, who go by the name of Chief Geek Photography. We have a similar background, having been chiefs in the Navy and being a retiree. I needed to look at something else. I transitioned a few years ago, and so now it's retirement time. And so seeing the fun Brandon and others were having, I said, I want to do that. I love Star Wars. So of course, Star Wars is very big with me, but the volunteerism here in the San Diego area is what keeps me going as a volunteer, as far as my services and also dressing up as a cosplayer. So that's what I do here in San Diego. And I am looking at other things as far as like our military retirements, since I can get on base. Not too much into weddings. They're specialists for that, but it may be a few other small things. I also sew. So I've made some of my costumes and I also helped out a few others. So I'm just looking at various avenues where I can be of assistance. There's a play on words, CAUSE, cosplay, because for various causes. And then there's cosplay, COSPLAY. So for me, there's a difference between the two. And I won't talk that much. I'll let someone else talk now.
That's very fascinating. I actually have a lot of questions for you. Why don't you go ahead and go next, Philippe?
My name is Phil. I'm 27. I'm based in Montreal, at Canada. It's been more than 7 years I'm doing cosplay photography. I mainly started as a cosplay photographer. Afterwards, I study in the photography school at my hometown, and I'm mainly now working as a professional retoucher for two large companies. But at the same time, I'm still continuing to do cosplay photography in my as my side hustle at the same time. Great job, and honestly, I've been there for so long, and I mainly cover from Toronto to Montreal, and I think my biggest trip was in New York for New York Comic Con, and it was amazing. But instead of that, I mostly cover from pretty much those three places mainly, and it's great, honestly. And I feel like cosplay photography is like a big things of everything. So retouching maybe more like fashion photography, because I'm doing like that a lot in companies. So I try to mix everything around that on and my with my style, and I've been used to it for a while. So that's pretty much it in my parkour.
That's really fascinating. I laugh because I was just joking with someone right before we came on this podcast. They said, "Oh, fashion photography and cosplay photography are kind of like almost the same thing, and how you would approach shooting a cosplayer versus someone wearing high-end fashion." So
Yeah.
I have some interesting questions to ask you about your perspective and how you approach your clientele and your cosplayers. Why don't you go next, Jonathan?
Hi, yeah, my name is Jonathan Gutierrez. I'm 32 years old. I am a cosplay photographer, of course, but before that, I actually got into landscaping photography and cityscape photography during the 90s when I used to do it with film. The basics are still there for between the two: the lighting, the contrast, the focus, and everything. All your basics get trans over to cosplay photography and digital photography as well. And I got into cosplay photography because I have a lot of friends who cosplay, but they never get that photographer they always want to work with. But it's not just that, but there is other great cosplayers that never get to really show off their outfits, their posing, their all that. And I thought it would be cool to get back into photography by doing cosplay photography. And I've been having a blast. The last convention I've been in, it was Anime Expo, and I got some cool shots off of that and some very unknown cosplayers that sooner or later you will see them blow up if they keep doing what they're doing. But in overall, I just got back into it because of the pandemic. It was pretty fun getting back into it, and I'm just having fun for 1 year straight. It has been going up a lot lately.
Cool, cool. That's very fascinating. How was your experience at well, I guess we'll get more into that later. But I want to know more about your con experience, especially because I definitely want to hit some West Coast cons. All right, so Drew, go ahead and introduce yourself for everybody.
So my name is Andrew Phillips, but I go by Drew. I am a full-time photographer. I teach photography, I do photo and video. Got into cosplay photography because I went to Dragon Con by accident, and I was like, whoa, what is this? And then I met a few people there, and I was looking at their pictures, and I was like, wow, you guys have some dope costumes, but your pictures are trash. So I was like, well, let me, take some pictures of you. And it actually took a while before people actually were like, yeah, I'll let you take pictures of me, because people are very like, standoffish in the cosplay world because they don't want anybody really exploiting them, which I understand. So once they got used to me and familiar with me, I started shooting a lot of different people. I met up with, of course, Jabbar from Cosplay Your Way. Was real good friends with him right now and stuff like that. So now I shoot for MomoCon, so I'm always there. I'll attend Dragon Con every now and then just to go outside and meet people. But primarily day to day teaching photography. I do a lot of corporate stuff and a lot of portraiture, stuff like that.
Okay, cool. Okay, cool. That's what's up. I didn't know you was exclusively the MomoCon photographer. That's dope. I didn't know that. All right, good. So right before we get into the main topics, just a little icebreaker question for everybody. Just give me one example though, because this could be a really big topic by itself. But what has everyone been geeking out to recently?
What was the question again?
The question is, what have you been geeking out to recently? Like, what have you been watching or playing or reading? Stuff like that. And you can go ahead and go first, Patricia.
Me, Star Wars.
Of course.
I would say watching the movies over again, and I want to fine tune my Reva costume because, I'm looking at going official with the 501st. The CRL has not been written. And so for me to be able to do that, I know it's going to take a lot. So I have a couple Reva costumes I've ordered, but the concept is to be able to find her costume again. I didn't realize it was at Celebration and I was there, and I have a few pictures, but to get detailed pictures so I can duplicate it in a way that I can join the dark side because they have cookies.
Okay, what about you, Phil? What have you been geeking out to recently?
Oh my god. Right now I'm just geeking out mainly by playing Genshin Impact. The worst spending in all time, I think.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm really geeking out about Genshin Impact, and I know a lot of cosplayer who makes like insane costume around it. So
Agreed.
I'm just like try to book most of them and on my portfolio at the moment, and I got like, I think for this year, because next week is like Otakuton in Montreal. It's like a huge Montreal's convention. I think I got like 15 bookings from just that, pretty much.
Nice.
Wow, that's really good. That's really good.
Just for one day. So that means like
okay.
I since this covers, I cover pretty much in 3 days. So I still have like maybe 6 bookings and 7 bookings in Sunday, but 15 bookings in Saturday.
Okay, cool. Okay, cool. Go ahead, Jonathan. What have you been geeking out to recently?
Well, I'm a hardcore gamer, but the game that's really got my focus is Stray, because it's like gaming right now really needs a game like this. Just tells a story. No level ups, no wasting money on those mobile games and all that. There's nothing wrong with those. I'm just saying Stray is like a really fun story game without dialogue because you're playing as a cat. And the cyberpunk world is great. And it's just a simple story of a cat trying to get back to his family. And the journey is just really amazing. You should really give that a try.
Okay, cool. I think I will give it a try. I've actually kind of heard some interesting reviews about it. Go ahead, Drew. What have you been geeking out to recently?
Funny enough, I'm a big Street Fighter head. So on any given day, you'll see me playing Street Fighter online, but my attention has been fully on Horizon Forbidden West. It got me locked in. I've already beaten it and I'm about to beat it again. It's Aloy is such a dope character. Like I cannot wait till I find the Aloy cosplayer. She's like literally my favorite character right now in sci-fi is Aloy.
We're about to get into the main topic of this podcast. This is something I've kind of been planning in the back of my mind since I kind of started my YouTube channel. I am a cosplay photographer. I've been doing cosplay photography on my own for years. I have built a clientele around it. I go to cons and do cosplay photography, both servicing clients as well as offering my services for free and volunteering for various cons. I've recently been able to do press because of my content creation and YouTube channel. I've been able to open up more doors than I previously thought was there. So I wanted to kind of get a crew of people together, a really talented pantheon of guests together to really talk about what it takes to be a cosplay photographer, what is cosplay photography, and a lot of the ins and outs. So again, everybody, thank you for coming on. I'm happy to have you on. So we're finna get into the deep of the nitty gritty. And I mean, to be honest, like every question on this outline is like a floodgate. So I'm just trying to figure out where I want to jump in. All right, how about we just keep it simple? Patricia, what got you into cosplay photography? Like specifically, what about cosplay as a niche in itself that stands out to you the most that made you want to focus on it?
For me, it was volunteering at a baby diaper drive. There are several groups that a lot of things are done for the children. And so I went and I saw cosplayers. And that was my first time seeing cosplayers. And I'm trying to taking classes, get my photography off the ground. And I enjoyed it. I realized how much money people were spending on the costumes. And it was for a good cause because I believe in giving back to the community. So I felt as a photographer, why don't I get the best pictures I can of them in motion, doing what they love to do, giving back to the community. So that's where I saw and I felt I can have a niche, kind of like combining street photography and cosplay, getting pictures of people when they're doing what they love, getting them on the move at the Comic Cons, because I just got started in this late last year. And so now then with the letting up the restrictions of COVID, and now I can get out there and move about and get more pictures. I want to catch them doing what they love. And I'm a student right now. I'm going to the community college and my major is photography. And so one assignment, and it was for my film class, and it's black and white film. So that was not interesting to me, but I had to do it. And so I let my instructor know that I was going to a con. He said, I don't want the normal pictures you see of a cosplayer being a cosplayer. Show me something different. Superman drinking or Starbucks. And I kind of went, okay. I had fun. I had my digital camera. I had the film camera, and keeping in mind what his parameters were. And for me, it was taking a class in journalism where you don't set up the shot, to cosplay, you set up the shot. So I had the freedom of setting up the shot. And so I was able to get several pictures with what we had here in San Diego, the little mini Comic-Con we had back in special edition in November. Then I ended up going to LA Con for one day, and I was able to get the pictures, develop them. I usually like going first when it come time for presenting, but I was last.
Mm.
and the best was last. They loved them. They loved them. I got 30 out of 30 on that assignment. I had a guy dressed as Hela, and he had his phone out. I had my mentor Brandon dressed as Captain America. He was eating a hot dog. You can see him just going at it. I had one guy had his mask pull up, drinking water. So I was able to get those shots. And so that gave me more hope on getting something a little different in people with their environment. And so if I can get that, I have not set up any sessions yet, and I'm learning about that. So for me, it's a learning experience. Every time I go to a con, be it I'm in cosplay or even taking pictures of certain cosplays that appeal to me, that are different, because that's what I would like to bring out, something that's different, someone in their element and getting that shot. And so that's what I enjoy about it. The huge volunteerism, first of all, and what they do and them enjoying it. As far as cost, I haven't gotten there yet. I'm working on that. So I'm learning more from you guys as a whole.
Okay, cool. That's fascinating. Actually, I'm secretly taking notes of more questions I want to ask at the end about your personal experience. So thank you for that. Thank you so much. What about you, Philip? What was it about cosplay photography that stands out to you?
That stands out to me. Well, when I was younger, I was part of the volunteers for the 2007 convention that we have here in Montreal, and I volunteered for that for at least 4 years, and from that I discover what is being a cosplayer and what is being about this culture. Because when I was younger, I was like, yeah, I was watching Inuyasha, I was watching Doraemon and all that stuff, and I was like, yeah, that's the only thing that I read pretty much, and Dragon Ball and all this stuff. And when I know there's people who do costume with it, I was like, oh shit, it's so nice. And I was just amazed when I was younger for just watching those people who do like insane cosplay of everything. And this is why I was like, hey, my dad used to be a photographer too, so he passed me his camera, and I just try to shoot photos with his camera around conventions and stuff like that. And this is why I was like, hey, why not try to do something more nicer and work that skills, you know? And I just do research at first. I met like my mentor from there, and it just started like that. And at the end, I just make my business and my networking successful at the end. um and what's that makes me stands out as a photographer, and mainly as a cosplay photographer, is mainly my lighting skills. Like, I do have a lot of knowledge about lighting, about mainly flash photography,
Hmm.
and from that I grind my money and getting on and just buy better lighting overall. Right now I'm shooting with Profoto, has a lighting kit, and I'm very amazed to have that. But I sold them. Like this year, I sold them and I bought Kodak's flashes instead.
Okay, cool. Okay, cool.
I bought like yeah, and at the end, I just like yeah. I'm just feeling my friends, and also I met friends over there. I also met my girlfriend over there back then, and it was just a whole amazing experience overall. It's just like living the moment and just grow from it. And this is what I love about cosplay photography, because at the end, those knowledge that you have on the field, what knowledge you have on editing, it serves me now today, because I know how to deliver my image on time. I did how know to deliver all my thing on time and make sure my skills is always good and consistent for the clients, and he helps me with that. And right now I'm working as a photo editor for a very large company and being a lead retoucher on that department. So why not?
Okay,
And
cool.
this is how makes me stand out, and this is how is amazing what the cosplay gave me at the end.
That's dope. That's so dope. That's really dope. Jonathan, So you told me in your intro that you are just now getting back into cosplay photography because of the pandemic. So this is a personal question for you. What is the like? What is that switch like going from film to digital? How is that transition going for you?
Well, with film, you basically have to know what type of film you're using, what and how what lighting do you need for it. You got to basically do a lot of planning ahead of time before you take one shot. But with digital, you already have all the options and settings on your camera, and you could just press the options, go quick, 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 take a few shots, check if you like it or not. And then if it's too dark or too bright, you could just go back to the options, fix it, and there you go. So you have more of accessibility on the options, the lenses, the memory card especially loads up faster, and you could save a lot more too. So you're not worried about wasting film. So like with film is expensive, so you were like worried about, okay, I cannot shoot 10 shots with the same pose. I gotta use like 2 or 3 shots and then move on the next scene. But with digital, you can take as much as you want, depends on how much space you have in your memory card, and you don't have to worry about wasting it. You could just buy more memory card. The only thing you got to worry about is the batteries. That's the thing that kills you. It's the batteries. You always have to buy yourself a grip, or just buy yourself like 10 or 12 batteries and have those readily charged, and you could pop them in and out as quick as possible. And the transition was learning all the digital stuff, learning how does it work, how does it work with the software you're going to use, what software do you need. And but if you keep your basics from film, like your lighting, your surroundings, the angles and all that, that transitions to digital perfectly. And you got to know what digital camera you're going to use. For me, I'm using a Canon T Rebel 7. It's the T series is for beginners, but if you know what you're doing, that camera can become a beast.
Yeah,
If you know what
exactly.
you're doing.
Exactly.
So that's the
Yep.
transition for me. And I'm transitioning to learning how to shoot with a subject. Because, like I said, I did landscaping and cityscaping. So working with a cosplayer is different. And the way I approach it is when they tell me they want to do a shoot, I actually go out of my way and do the research of the character. I actually, like, example, I did a shoot with Demon Slayer. I'm not a big fan of the series, but I will give it my all by reading a few manga about it, knowing the character they're going as, and watch a few episodes so I know how to pose them like their characters
Mm.
and pose them what a character will be posing for that or acting like it, so it won't feel like out of their element. So so with Demon Slayer, the main character has the demon in the box. So I did a lot of cool fun pics with her in the box, her without the box, and him carrying her and all that, having fun, but also having serious moments like staying his ground, protecting it and everything. So research is a big part of my big deal when I do cosplay photography because I want to do justice for them and their character.
Gotcha. Fascinating. I have a follow-up question for you, but first I want to go to Drew. Drew, I have a question for you. What was your aha moment in photography? What was it about photography that like made you fall in love with that medium to be a creative?
I mean, just photography in general.
Yes, just photography, or even if it was just something else in art. I'm just assuming it's photography because that's what you made a business around.
Yeah, well, I do. I got my undergrad is in illustration, and I used to always when I went to SCAD, and when I would always go up to the photo department to take pictures for reference for my drawings, and then after a while, I was like, yo, the pictures are getting dope. Like, I don't even want to draw this. I just need to keep it as a picture. So after a while, I went up there and I was like, y'all want to work in the photo lab. So I lied my way into the photo program, and then I got my master's because they asked me, they were like, yo, do you know how to use this stuff? And I was like, yeah, I know how to use everything. And then they were like, all right. And I would just stay there late every night. And the students loved it because they're like, yo, Drew's gonna be in the photo lab till like 3, 4 in the morning. And I was also an RA at the dorm. So I literally just would walk across the street to go home. So stay there every night and practice. And it's like he was saying earlier, lighting is essential. So like that's the key for me is lighting. I light my photographs how I would draw. So the aha moment was when I was shooting and I was like, oh, I don't even want to draw this anymore. I just like the picture. And it was quicker. It was a lot quicker. Like I did, I remember one Dragon Con I went to and I got a dope shot of a red skull. And I actually turned it into an illustration. The illustration was dope, but I was like, yo, I could have brought this dude in the studio and lit him way better. You know what I mean? So
Right.
the aha moment is the speed of photography. Like that's what I love. Like drawing is my number one love, but photography is so quick. And it's just I can get an instant gratification right there. And I also shoot film too. I did most of my master's program with all film street photography, actually. You mentioned street photography. So my whole thesis was done in street photography over in Hong Kong, Korea, New York, stuff like that. So understanding, like I don't like to shoot a lot. Even when I'm teaching my students, I tell them, I call it get out the casino, because you'll take like 1,000 shots, click, 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 click. And I'm like, no, take 3 or 4, move on. You know what I mean? You got the shot. When you shoot a film,
Exactly.
like you were saying before, you got 3 or 4. Don't keep doing it. Get the shot and keep moving. So the aha moment was definitely the speed and the instant gratification of photography.
Okay, cool. That's dope. That's really dope. I've noticed a trend. Based off your personal background is how you approach cosplay photography. Drew, you're an illustrator, so to me it makes sense why you use graphics a lot with your photography. Philip, you do a lot of fashion, and I understand how you relate cosplay photography and fashion. And Patricia, you said you do street photography. That's a whole nother level to that I didn't even think about. So I like how everybody is just putting different elements of other stuff into cosplay photography, and that shows that cosplay photography is not just one thing. You can do graphics and super cool illustrations and things like that, or you can treat it high end, or you can treat it as it's the norm. Like, it's normal for people to dress up and go out and drink coffee and read the paper in cosplay, so that's really dope. That's really dope. I love this panel, by the way. This is amazing. So I just got a few just random questions just because of the first few questions we asked alone. So let me go to you, Jonathan. Jonathan, with you transitioning from film to digital, do you think you have an advantage over those who only know digital? Because I've learned and was self-taught in photography by only learning digital, but I want to go the film route. And one thing that scares me is, you're right, film is expensive. I know how I shoot. I don't want to do that investment, and I'm like, oh man, I spent this amount of money on just a normal shoot for me because I'm not used to shooting on film. So do you think you have an advantage as far as like with everything extra you have to do with planning for a photo shoot?
Well, yes and no. Like with film, you do have to plan everything in advance, but it depends on the subject and the subject matter you're taking pictures of. Like example, if I want to take a picture of a samurai, I already know that I got to get good action poses, good standing straight up poses, very noble poses. So I don't really need a lot of film for that. I know that it's not going to be that much of moving around. It's not going to be a lot of autofocus. There's not going to be a lot of hesitation of shakiness. And with a tripod, it will help. You just take 1 or 2 shots of that same pose from different angles, and there you go. With digital, you could do a lot more. You could take multiple angles, take multiple shots, and you won't be scared of wasting the subject matter and all that. And you could change the settings of the light on your camera. As for film, you don't have that. You actually have to change the lighting from physical items or the physical light bulbs and all that. You have to move the tripod to the left of the light or the right of the light and all that physical stuff just to do that. But with digital photography, you actually have more of an advantage. And you could also cheat because you got Photoshop as your friend, but your greatest friend is Adobe Lightroom Classic. That's your real best friend. So it depends what you're comfortable with. And because I come from film, I know not to waste the light. I know not to waste the subject matter. I know not to waste this and that. So I don't have to like go to my camera and do like 50 shots and then fix the settings all over again because I already know what I'm going to do and I already have it planned out in my head. I already talked to the subject. If the subject/person is okay with it, then we start going from there. So I'm not wasting time. It's more comes down to knowing all your basics first. That's the number one key. Knowing all the basics that you transition from film to digital will save you time and money and to get the shot out of there quick. You can get more in your portfolio if you come in with the basics. But if you're starting in digital photography, that's cool and all. That's great. I love it when you start out digital. But transitioning into film, you got to realize now that, okay, you don't have these extra tools. You got to work what you work with. So with the lights, the camera, the tripod, the subject. You got to really move it around and play with it a bit. And the best you can hope for is like, as soon as you develop your own film, you're like, you better hope it came out good. If it didn't, you might have to do another reshoot or work what you got.
Gotcha.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. Actually, go with the film. Usually, people go film to digital, not digital to film, unless they want to go a fine art route.
Yeah.
The thing about film is it's not really practical this day and age for what you're doing. If you're at a con and you're moving quick, you're like, okay, boom, 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 I got it. Then you get home, you develop your film, and people are like this, and you're like, oh man, I could have shot, I could have checked it really quick and go. So now for me, when I shoot film, it's specifically for a fine art purpose. So I know I go in and I'm slowing down. Yeah. It's not something where you're moving fast and you're going to be on, run and gun and just boom, boom, boom. It's like, nah, I got my people in the studio. I shoot 4x5 film. You know what I mean? And sometimes I'll shoot 6x6 with my medium, with the Rolleiflex, the TLR.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'll shoot that, but it's slowed down. It's like portraits. It's clean. It's well thought out, and it's like, all right, we're just going. But I love doing street photography with film, but that's because I don't care about the actual end result. It's the process of shooting that I enjoy. And if I got it, I think I'm good enough. I think I got it. But if I didn't, I enjoyed that moment. It's like what Henry Cartier-Bresson said. It's the decisive moment, that 1/125th of a second. But with digital, it's more practical. So if you're going to go to film, don't do it because you're like, I want to just do film. Do it because you're like, nah, I want to have a different aspect of my photography as an art. Because film, I don't know, I'll let the rest of everybody else talk about it, but there's just a quality that film has that it's really hard to match with digital.
I agree.
For me, it's really hard to match. So, and I shot Linhof 4x5, 6x6, and it's just that quality that film has. And the only thing that I found that kind of matches near it is when I shoot with the Hasselblad H5D, and that one comes close because it's a giant medium format digital back camera. But man, the film is, just make sure you're going to it with the right mindset, like he was saying. Slow down, don't rush. This is a different beast. And even when she said she was doing it in school, they want you to learn it so you understand not to waste, not to rush. This is slow it down and be more precise with your shot.
With that said, like if you are going to think about going to film, the best way to treat it like you're doing portraits. Like you know exactly what you want of the pose and the person, and treat it that it is a painting basically, because you got to get that shot perfectly on the first 2 takes. For me, for my rule, you have to get it perfectly in the first 2 takes, because third is just wasteful. So you want to get into film, just buy yourself a standard, like good example. I bought this for $14. I got back into film, a basic 35mm camera. Work with this, buy the cheap film at CVS or Walgreens, and practice a few toy photography, practice a few card photography with it. And then you'll know how to take your time and shoot, and then see if you like it from there.
Those are actually some really good tips. Thank you for sharing. Let's go ahead and move on. Patricia, I have a question for you with something you said in your intro. You volunteer a lot. Do you only volunteer your photography services, or do you actually try to make a profit off of using your services?
Right now, I volunteer. I would say because I'm still finding my way and not quite comfortable yet. Now, for something I know, like if I'm doing a military ceremony, that's different because I'm very comfortable with that. And so then there's a flat fee. Another thing I would say, like I fell into brides getting ready for their wedding. A straight one-on-one with the bride and her party, just the girls, just getting candid shots. And then of the bride and her party, once the bride put the dress on, and like I said, I want it in the moment, whether she's standing looking at her reflection, that's my last picture, then I'm done, I'm out of there. I don't have to deal with anything else. And then even that's a flat fee. And I do enjoy that. With the cosplay, I'm hoping that people do like my style. They like what they see. And then that's where, when they ask me, okay, so what are your fees? What are you charging? And then that's when I will come with, okay, well, here's my list. Because right now I feel like there's so many different modes. We have our phones, and other people have cameras. And so to charge them for more or less straight on the spot, is going to be just one fee per digital upload if that's what they want. But I haven't gotten into the studio yet.
Okay.
I'm waiting for that class so I can learn more about it and lighting. And like you mentioned in film, what I wanted to add is when you're using film, knowing, like you said, the basics, the f-stop, the lighting, and the ISO plays a big part when you're using film. And so that's why I'm happy I don't have to use film.
Right.
I'm hoping I don't have to take another class in film. Because I decided to share my equipment with one of the other students, so he wouldn't have to go and buy a film camera, the developer, because we use black and white, because color developer costs more. And so, you're looking at, if you're not going to develop yourself, you're going to send it off for someone else to develop it. And so as far as my business, cosplay photography is what I'm going toward right now.
Gotcha.
And so, and getting with other photographers, that one of the guys had his business at one time doing portraits and everything. And so I'm hoping to get with them more so I can learn more, develop, and then I can come out with stuff. I would say I would look at, like, September is Comic-Con for Vegas. You coming out? You mentioned West Coast.
Vegas. I got a plan for that one. That's a trip. That's actually another conversation I kind of want to get into, because it's a pretty penny to go out and travel to cons and do hotel travel and booking and accommodations just to go and take pictures for fun. So that's a whole interesting dialect and dialogue and rabbit hole I would like to go down. But first, let me ask Philip this question. Philip, what is your approach when you have a shoot, whether it's fashion or cosplay? What is your creative process like?
My creative process, for sure, what I'm mostly learning, for sure, the greatest thing about my platform is I do have like a booking platform online with all the forms and questions that they need to answer. And based on what they answer, I just try to know a little bit more about the cosplay and pre-plan myself a shot list of what I want to do with this particular person. I will just make sure the location that I'm shooting at is available, and I'm just making sure that on my side everything is good, like equipment prepared and everything. And afterwards, when I meet with the cosplayer, for sure I try to make the more the action pose based on their character. For example, if I shoot Spider-Man, I rather shoot some location that is high and more dynamic than what I should do with mainly with Genshin Impact cosplayers, or different things, or someone who has a big role, and and I base my what I learned from what I assist other photographers and what I work as a studio photographer. Um, my knowledge is always based on, it always returns on that, and I always imply what I know from what I worked with before to cosplay photography.
Okay,
And I
cool.
think that's pretty much it.
Okay, cool. That's interesting. I think it's important to be prepared. That's really good. So before we move on to the next main topic, which is something I'm really interested and itching to get into, just by a round of show of hands, how many of you, and it doesn't have to be in cosplay photography, it can be any of your services that you offer as an entrepreneur. How many of you charge for your services? Okay, cool. So
Should I start or?
yeah, why don't you go ahead?
Okay, then for me, for cosplay, mainly cosplay, and when I move to cons, I charge $100,
Mhm.
and the client receive three pictures, and is mainly edited and retouched. And I based on that, and I also shoot groups sometimes, so I charge like maybe um, $30 for each image that is added and for each person that is added on the set. And is all the set is always 45 minutes. That's and on my schedule I always have like a 15-minute buffer just to find the cosplayer and just to find the location I want to shoot at. But for most of my service, like is a quote unquote basis. So it's like if I have an advertisement contract, I make sure that I have my production fees goes in, like photographers fees, retouching fees, license, all those things, and it could come from 2K to 5 grand to $10,000 for a production set. It always depends on the client. But most of my clients this month and the last year is mostly e-commerce, so I only shoot like on models with a piece of clothing, and I shoot their face, and that's pretty much it. And at the moment is mainly like that. But sometimes I do shot artists, so it depends on always based on quote and everything.
Okay, cool. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
What about you, Jonathan? How do you approach charging cosplayers and clients with your business?
When I was starting out, I was doing photo for photo. Like I was doing a photo shoot for me and then a photo shoot what they want to do. And then when I was able to charge, I basically just charged $25 an hour. And for an all day shoot, it's $1.25. They get to keep all the original photos, the unedits, but whatever they want, the ones edited, I edit only a few selection. And it depends on the shoot because I do shoot for safe for work, not safe for work. And another thing that a lot of cosplayers have a trouble to ask photographers is doing kind of like a dark tone of a character, like put a character in a dark situation, like in a fight they're losing, or something that's a little bit more graphic or a little bit more sexual. Because I've been talking to a few cosplayers, they want to do stuff like that, but when they try to ask photographers, mostly they flat out say no, or they're too nervous to ask because they think the photographer will look like a little off to them about it. And it's like, no, it's just taking a character and telling a different story. For me, art is art. Like I grew up with that mentality. Like art is art, and it's your character. It is your money. It is your time. I have no problem doing it, but I want to do the best of it. So don't try to like half. I don't know how your YouTube channel is. I don't know if you allow language, but half a on it. You know what I mean?
allow language, so you don't have to censor yourself like that.
Okay, so don't half-ass it. Go all in or don't do it. And for me, I have no problem with that. Like I've done a few risque photo shoots. Like my Wonder Woman shoot was actually my first photo shoot, and it's something from The Boys. If you've seen the show The Boys, so imagine basically Wonder Woman doing the same stuff as their fake Wonder Woman is doing. And then I also did one with Venom getting to a fight with Carnage. There's a lot of symbiote and blood flying around and stuff like that. So for charging, it's basically it's basic for me. $25 an hour, all day is $1.25, because if you think about it, $25 an hour, by the time you get on your fifth hour, that's like almost close to 125 or 150. So you might as well just pay for the whole day. Right. And you get a best benefit for me. You get to keep the originals, the raw files of the photos and edits. And I do encourage this. This is a big encouragement to every photographer. They have to let you know they're 18 and older, because I've seen photographers and videographers getting into a lot of hot water on that subject matter.
You actually just said a lot of stuff that I even personally am dealing with, because you're right. A lot of photographers do get uncomfortable with being approached with that type of theme of shoot. I mean, I've done boudoir stuff before. That's not the problem. But for me, the problem is you're cosplaying a licensed character. You're allowed to cosplay that character. You're right. It is your character. You're spending money on. You can do whatever you want. But I may not be able to advertise or promote my business for that service with a character doing certain new things. I've heard stories of photographers being sued by corporations because they did risque cosplay shoots and things like that. Like there's a whole this is not safe for work. But there's a whole genre of erotic cosplay out there. Don't watch away. Don't click off this video to go watch that. But the internet is crazy. So I do have issues with that. And even like with charging, like you give away your raws essentially in my mind. Philip, a $20,000 shoot. I dream about doing a shoot like that. And having my structure-based pricing put up in that way. And Patricia, this next question is for you. You said that you said you're not comfortable on the skill level yet to start charging cosplayers, but you do charge for your other services like weddings and things like that you're nervous for. For you, what exactly about the skill set that you feel like you're missing that's preventing you from charge, or do you feel like cosplayers will want your style of photography and charging, whatever you would charge for that?
My style and my eye, I'm developing. I came up with a model on going on a shoot it was a group called Meetup, and it was a photography meetup group. And we were various as far as skill level, different cameras. Even someone had a disposable camera. And I said, we look like a bunch of tourists. And that's where I learned beauty is in the eye of the photographer. And so what we see is what we shoot. And my goal is to find a niche within the cosplay community and the way I shoot, and it's acceptable and people like it and people want to pay money. I'm taking notes, and thank you very much, Jonathan. I like that, your pricing. And so especially I would love to hand over raw files with some editing, some that are edited. Because
can I chime in real quick?
Uh-huh.
The reason I do that is because most of my clientele are cosplayers that want to get into it. I don't mind giving them my raw files to them, because it's like you see some amazing cosplayers, and I'm going to be honest, the ones who get featured a lot are the cosplay models who have been there for years. And I met some of them. Some are nice. There is some are like they try to keep people down a bit without letting people know. So a new upcomer never gets a chance. For me, I want to see that new upcomer getting a chance, because they do some great work with their cosplay, not just their posing, but their building skills, their prop design and all that. And it's like, if I could get this person to get up there, I just hope maybe one day they could just say, hey, this is the guy that got me started. Go to him and do some more shoots with him. That's all I'm asking. I'm trying to build up a clientele for the average Joe.
See, and I like that. And that's why I feel like I'm right now in the volunteer mode and let's see. And so for even myself as a cosplayer, I was fortunate enough, we have someone in our club who is a photographer, and he was just saying 13 of his images was posted from Getty. And I was in some of them as a cosplayer. My first year, and I'm like, Getty, okay. So how can I do this? How can I get photos in there of people? So looking at that, and me coming from, like I say, I want to come from a street photography view, get them on the move, just like you would a runway, someone doing runway modeling. And so right now, so some people, so far I don't have any clients on that. So I'm doing what you guys are doing, setting up a shoot. I did that once, and because a young man was new to the area in the Navy, and so I want to get my name out there. So photo shoot. He's Skeletor, and he loved it. But I get in business from it? No one has approached me. So it's something I feel like I need to work on, getting my name out there, getting the brand out there, just like, information you asked for. And that's what I will be working on, advertising, because you're not the only one. I have other people say, you need to get your stuff out there, get it out there. We need to know. I'm like, okay. And school is getting ready to start up for me. And one of my classes is landscape and no, I haven't do the landscape, commercial photography and digital darkroom 2. So I will do landscape, but I do like landscape.
Mm.
And so, but I want to come with a different view using my eye. And so that's what I'm going for when I'm taking pictures of cosplayers. And I have pictures up on Facebook. And so if people see them and they like them, as being a student, she have us putting our photos up on Behance. And I was told as a photographer, I need to look at Flickr and putting my pictures up there. I had one photographer told me about Pass Plus, and I use Pass Plus. Like for some of the people that are in the club, I love photographing the cappuccino cosplay. Just as a couple, I want people to see the closeness of a husband and wife team and how they work together. So when I see things like that, I want to come from a different angle where people can feel the picture that I've just taken.
Gotcha, man. That's really deep. That's really deep. I want to piggyback to something that Jonathan said. I know I'm going back around a little bit, but you mentioned about your raws and how you and what your approach and why you sell your raw files. For someone like me, again, I'm self-taught, and one of the first things I learned was that the raw files, that's your intellectual property. That's what you use to edit and create. That's what you get paid to sit there, shoot, and make. So giving that away for any amount of money other than 3 times what that shoot costs is unacceptable. So I've made it a principle to not give away raw files, and I've had cosplayers approach me wanting the raw files so they can go and do their own edits and things like that. And I've lost clients because of that. People didn't want to work with me because they thought I was just making a big deal out of it. But I was like, no, as a business, this is what it is. I don't have a problem giving them away, but it's going to be a pretty penny to do that because that's my intellectual property. And intellectual property as a creative is a big thing because without that, we essentially have nothing. As artists to really kind of protect ourselves. So I find it fascinating that you sell your raw files. Like that's kind of crazy to me, but it works for you. It works for you, right? And you don't mind because you still get credit for taking the shot when the cosplayer re-edits it and do their own thing to it, right?
Yeah, they still give me credit. Like I tell them that's the only thing I ask for in return. And the thing is, it's like these are for up and newcomers. It's like, if I took a picture of Yang Han, there's no way I'm going to give it to her for free. She makes bank. She can afford it. But like but if someone that's just starting out and their costume looks beyond amazing, like example, actually today I did a photo shoot of Phoenix Wright. This cosplay Phoenix Wright. He literally looks like Phoenix Wright down to a T, even down to his hair because it was his real hair. And we shot that in Little Tokyo, and he was just starting to cosplay again, and he's never been into a photo shoot out in the open. He's always done like studio photo shoots, and I'm like, you know what? And he's like, yeah, I'm trying to get back into cosplaying again, but I want to get back into cosplaying professionally. And for me, with someone with that much passion, it's like I don't mind giving it to this person. And all they're going to really do to my raw files is put in their own edits. I'm still going to get credit for it. I'm still going to get credit for the shoot. I'm still going to get noticed. And all they're really doing is they're keeping what's really half of theirs. It's a 50-50 thing. Because I always believe that without the cosplayer, there'll be no cosplay photographer. Without us, there'll be no them.
I have a different view on that too, but that's probably for another episode. Go ahead.
I have like I have a big resistance towards like giving up raw files because for most of all the clients or the cosplayer you're with it, like they mainly don't mainly do use those for prints. Most of the time is mainly for the social media. So except if they ask if they need like a specific sizing, but most of them is for social media. So I always give them like maybe just the social media size of this image. I always being clear about that. And also the second reason like I will never give my raw is because I have my own color grading too. So this color grading and this color style and this photo editing is part of my process and it's part of my branding at the same time. So if I try to give those raw files to someone else and they do like a shitty edit behind it, I might don't want that too. It's because you never know what kind of repercussions in the future you might have, because like for example, this cosplayer is famous, but she's sharing like a very hideous image. Those, and since you don't have any control of this image because you give them the raw files, you might have issues at the end of the day, just to say like, hey, you did this picture, like you might have negative backlash from that. I used to do this before when I was younger, and I got negative comments behind it. So this is why I don't never do it again, and never give the raws, and always give to the clients what they want. Like if they say it's for social media, so I give them the sizing, necessary sizing for social media. Or if they want, for example, for prints, I might charge more because, it's prints. It's just the
Right.
same thing as you sell. It's just the same things. It's the same thing as you sell your negatives on the film, but you're never gonna sell those because you cannot reproduce the film
Right.
by himself. So it's not for me. It's like I try to follow this logic very much. And for and mainly for commercial photography, there's a lot of laws, and there's a lot of money going on this business. So if you try to charge, if you and everything is about licensing these days. So it is
That's
you
what I was
mainly
gonna
code.
ask.
Yeah.
Are y'all talking about raws as in like
The
the
raw
the
file.
the CR2 or the A7R?
Yeah,
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, the CR2 files.
oh, because it sounds like
Yeah.
two things. It sounds like one is saying like I'll give you the raw image, meaning I didn't edit it, but you give them like maybe a TIFF or a JPEG. But you guys are saying like I'm gonna give you the actual raw file.
Right.
No, the actual raw file, the CR2 file. Well, the thing is, I know there's some repercussions behind it and all that, but here's the thing though. I had a few clientels that didn't like my editing style. They said it was like too much of a movie, or too much of this and that. And I'm like, it got to the point, you know what? They have a different view on how they want to see it. So let them deal with their own editing, that, like, not because I was mad at them and like them criticizing my editing. Because here's the thing. I also talked to other cosplayers about the situation. They always not like to work with certain photographers, because this is what always happens. This is the same story I get across the board for most of them. They cosplay photographer will take pictures. They'll run with the pictures, make their own edits, give them the edits back only, and that's it. And on top of that, the thing that makes it worse is they pick the pictures what they think it's good, not what the client thinks it's good, and that's super unfair.
So
And
I got
but why? But I have a big argument about this, because this is very hot topic right there.
right.
Why don't you have a client proofing platform? Because for me, I mainly use, like, for example, Pixie Set.
That's
Like
what I
you can
use.
show, this is what I mainly most of photographers use, and they have a client proofing behind it. So you just sending the JPEGs, you just upload it on this platform.
No, I know that. I
And
know about that. Like, I do, but I mean, like, this is the story I hear from other cosplayers, what their
yeah,
experiences with these photographers. And I'm
okay.
like, that's kind of messed up. It's like, wait, you are the one who posed, right? Yeah. And he just took the pictures, took it with him, did his own edits. It only give you back the edits, not the originals, or not your input. They didn't even take your input at all. No, that's
But let me
unfair. That's
let
very
me ask
unfair.
you.
And I
Oh,
know
wait.
and I know it's because we have experience, and we know that what's best for the clientele, but sometimes it's also the different views of another person too that could makes us do a double take. Because when I take pictures, I show them back what I took, and sometimes it's like some cosplayers actually have some cool ideas. I had an aha moment today with a cosplayer that he was Phoenix Wright. If he didn't change one movement of his foot, the picture would end up being worse than it really is. Like, a different posing changed the outcome of the picture completely than what I had in mind. So you got to think about it this way. It's like it's a 50-50 thing. I believe it's 50-50 because I came in photography during the 90s and all that. It was a 50-50 thing back then. I don't
If
know
you
how
could,
it is now, but I know it's a
oh,
different beast now.
I see where you're coming from. I just think in the cosplay world, a lot of people have to start to understand and realize that photographers who do it professionally, like, this is their thing. And you go, okay, I'm not gonna go
to an artist and say, hey, give me your work so I can do it the way I want to do it. I went to that artist because I like their style or I like their thing. So I go to them, and it's almost disrespectful to say, your stuff is kind of good, but I'm going to do it my way. And I'm like, well, why did you come to me in the first place? Some of my friends I do that with because I'm like, they're my friends. I'm like, yeah, do whatever. But if somebody came to me, they're like I shoot a lot of Cutie Pie Sensei. I don't know if you guys know who she is, but Cutie Pie Sensei came to me because she was like, I like your style. And she literally was like, that's why I shoot with you, is because I like your style. I shot with Yaya Han, and Yaya Han was like, I came to you because I like your style. You know what I mean? So the thing I think is, if they were to come to me and be like, I want you to shoot, but I want to do it myself. They were like, no, I came to you because your style. Now, there are cosplayers I do shoot at cons where I'm like, click, here you go. I don't really care what you do with it afterwards. I just took your picture because I want to take it. But on a professional level, if they're going to pay you to do it, I think they're coming to you for your style.
Right.
And for them to say, I'm going to change your thing because I don't like it, that's almost rude. I'm not saying, no disrespect to you.
No, I get it. No, I get it.
You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm.
No, I see what you're saying. But
it hurts my ego. It hurts my ego.
But here's the other thing too. Like when I did that, I had no complaints from any of my subjects at all. They never asked me at all to re-edit it or all that. I still shoot in my style, and when I give them back the originals, they're like, they never bothered to change it because they already liked what I see. Even some of the new guys too, like new clients, they're like, you're too good. I don't even have to edit it. And I'm like, well, thank you, but you can still have them. Like, no, right. You're good. You're like, you're good. You don't have to do this. But it's like, the thing is, it's like, you gotta understand, like, not everybody could afford those high prices. And there's some customers that are like very starting out. It is pretty cool if you give them back their originals back to them. And it's like, they could see like, oh, this is how it works. And I want to do a little different of an edit. 9 times out of 10 for me, they never bother re-editing their own shoots after I edit them. They just leave it alone. And that's cool. But like I say, you're the professional level. I'm not a professional. I'm technically an amateur cosplayer in the group of other photographers.
I see what you're saying.
And on top of that, I'm still trying to struggle for clientele. And the thing is, that doesn't help either. Like, there is a few photographers in the bunch that kind of ruin it for everybody. Like, I talk to other photographers, I talk to cosplayers, and I get their inputs and their experiences. Like, I don't like working with this guy because he does this. I don't like working with this guy because he does that. I don't like, or the photographer be like, oh, I don't do this because I don't want to do that. It's like, it's not my thing. It's like, well, don't you guys want to work together and try to work with a compromise? It's like, most of the photographers I bumped into are mostly like Andy Warhol type guys. They're kind of like, they like to smell their own farts. And I'm like, dude, you're here to have fun. It takes some good pictures. Like I never understand that mentality. Like, for me, it's like, dude, if I could take a kick-ass picture, I'm going to take a kick-ass picture. I'm not here to be super artsy-fartsy and be elitist. I want to get the best of both worlds. I want to work with some cool cosplayers, and I want to take some cool pictures. That's the bottom line for all of us, right? Like, I know we are professionals, but in the end of the day, we want some cool pictures, right?
Well, I mean, I kind of agree with you. Yeah, the bottom line is to take some dope pictures, but to be honest, the bottom line is what my bank account looks like.
That's true.
Like, I'm in business for profit, not to give everyone the cool, fun, fuzzies and giggles after our photo shoot. Don't get me wrong, I do that too.
No.
But that's why I'm glad I put this podcast together, because like we all come from different backgrounds and experiences from low level to high level, and pricing has been one of the things that I have personally struggled with. So like I'm sitting here taking notes too from everybody. But like getting back to the whole raw file thing, I think that's insane. Like there's too much risk going on with that to do that. I get where you're coming from, and yeah, I have certain clients who I know what they're gonna do with the work, so I don't mind charging them extra to get the raw files. But if it's somebody new, you will never get raw files from me. You will never, because
he said he's up and coming though, so this is
and I get that, because I'm not that far removed from where you are. Because like back, maybe a couple of years ago, that would have been something I would have done, just given the raw files, because hey, this is all fun anyway. I didn't charge you for the shoot. I just want to take some cool pictures. But
don't get me wrong, I did charge for the shoot.
Okay, well, yeah, but just from my experience, I've done that before, and those people created some dope stuff. But I also learned the hard way. your reputation, like as a photographer, as an artist, you're judged by your worst thing, and they will drag you through the mud on your worst image and forget your best that you've ever done. You got to protect that reputation at all costs. And to me, giving over the raw files is like the cardinal sin of creative business 101. Don't give over the originals.
Yeah. I think
I agree.
the only go for it, Drew.
Oh
sorry.
no, I was just gonna say the only thing I did once was when I was just getting into cosplay photography. Another thing, I gave the cosplayer too many images, and you would think like they'd pick, like if you gave them 20 images, you think they would pick like their top 3,
No,
and they
pick
end up
all of
posting
them.
the whole gallery, and
Yeah,
you're like,
they post all
oh
of them.
gosh. So you learn to not do that because you're like, I didn't want everybody to see every image. I wanted them to see your hottest one. So that's another thing too. And I think, have you thought about doing DNGs and not just your raws, but creating DNGs so that way it's a copy of your raw?
Yeah, I thought
Okay.
of that.
Cool.
Um,
Sorry to
do
cut
that.
you off earlier.
No, it's
Right.
not done. You didn't blow off. You're very justified because of experience. I'm not mad or anything. It's
Yeah.
just everybody rocks a different boat here. And like I said, it's like I only gave it out to a client that's barely starting out, and I'm gonna be the only one that does that. And chances are that's just gonna be that one shoot only. But if I end up having that client multiple times, then I don't do that.
Right.
right.
There's a
And
difference. It's like
I would say it's all a learning experience. Again, I've been where you are. To be honest, I'm still where you are. We're just like further. I'm just maybe further down the side of the coin than you are. But we're in the same boat. Like I see myself as more amateurish, but I'm getting to the professional level. I'm seeing the growth of my work every day. And like running the business, like they don't tell you in art school that, you know, if you want to make money off your art, you got to know how to run a business. So that's the thing I've been struggling with. And I'm taking L's left and right with clients, from cosplay to weddings. I'm in the probably hot water right now as recording this podcast, but who knows? This is all a growing process. And this is why I wanted to create this, because there's not necessarily like a channel on YouTube that's teaching you the ins and outs of not only how to edit cosplay photography and edit cosplay videography, but how to make that into a business and how to grow and how to make money from that. So I think this might actually end up being a series that I might start. But since Drew's on and he's been giving some really good input, I didn't get to ask him any questions in this topic. Drew, how do you approach pricing with your clientele in your business?
So if you're talking about just what cosplay is different. The reason why is because cosplay, depending on the cosplayer, then 9 times out of 10, you're not going to make money off of somebody else's intellectual property. What I mean by that is, if you're a Batman cosplayer, you're not about to make a lot of money off of your Batman cosplay because DC owns that, right? So right. I don't really charge cosplayers that much. Now, what I do for a lot of people, I use my cosplay in the fine art realm. So a lot of my stuff ends up in galleries. So my fine art photography, my cosplay photography turns into fine art photography, which I sell that for more because I'm selling it as art and not just as a commercial piece, right? So I would encourage you, if you wanted to. There's a program called BlinkBid, and if you download BlinkBid, it walks you through. It'll make you your invoices. You can plug in every single thing you want. And you're like, oh, how long do you want to shoot? What gear do I need? All that stuff. What's the market value? And this is outside of cosplay photography. This is like if you're doing portraits, all that stuff. It tells you the market value of what you're doing and how much it would cost. So you can start pricing your things accordingly and usage right. I'm sorry. Is your name Felipe or Philip?
Philip. Felipe is more is with an F with an E.
Oh, okay. So Philip, I didn't want to say it incorrectly. I apologize.
Yeah.
So Philip kind of. Yeah, he works in the industry, right? So he kind of knows what I'm talking about, where it's like you have to charge for like the usage, you charge for the licensing, you charge for all that stuff, you charge for your time, the gear, like whatever gear you got, you're basically renting that gear out to yourself to do the client. So when I charge, I have a whole questionnaire that I send the client first. And I'm like, answer these questions. And by the way you answer these questions is how I'm going to charge. So it's like, oh, do you want to, is this for a commercial client or is this for your LinkedIn? Am I doing a headshot for the billboard or am I doing it for it to go on Facebook? You know what I mean? So all that stuff changes.
Question. That's a good tip right there. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I would say you can download BlinkBid and you can do a free trial and just look at it. And I literally go to BlinkBid for everything. My corporate clients, the first thing I do is I ask them the questionnaire. I give them a budget first. If they say I want 10 headshots of my executive team, oh, where's it going? Oh, it's going on the billboard. Okay, well, something like that will probably run you about 15,000. But what's your budget?
No,
You know what I
that's a
mean?
good point. I've
Yeah.
had stuff where I just did the shoot, and next thing I know, they're doing prints and putting this stuff up on things. Like, wait a minute, you didn't tell me all that. If I had known that, I would have did X, Y, and Z.
Yes.
Got my stuff everywhere, and it looks bad, to be honest. So you got, I learned the hard way. You got to do those things. I'm sorry, I interrupted somebody.
Yes, somebody started to speak. I don't know who it was though.
I think I was talking about, but yeah, absolutely. This is why this is the greatest thing is when I do have a booking platform on my website. So when people booked online with me for cosplay photo shoot, like they always know what is the usage beforehand before they get asked me for something else. So if they ask me for prints, licensing, and everything, I would say to them like. I'll do the basic stuff, but for sure, like since there's a lot of intellectual property rights behind those, for sure, like I would never charge them. I would just ask for a small fee, since
Right.
it's like since they building themselves a portfolio too, so it's like a small trade for me. And for me, like I said, like before it was like my main job doing cosplay photography, but right now I don't have that time compared to what I have before. So it's mainly like I charge them like just which has a trade pretty much sometimes. If I do, because I some of my people I grew up with that are cosplay, I mostly do trades. For example, a friend of mine, she's doing cosplay, but she's a lawyer. So if they sometimes I just want to do some legal consulting, but instead of charging them like maybe I don't know $125 every time I shoot with her, I might charge them. I might trade with her like for some legal consulting stuff like that too.
Gotcha.
So I can
Nice.
use that, and I always do that. And for example, if you want to give something to our, if you want to do like voluntarily, like I voluntary is like a big word I think, and it's more like trades these days is the best to
Yeah.
say it.
Yeah.
Like
Mhm.
it needs to be beneficial for both parties. Like,
Correct.
Yeah,
and
that's
for
why.
example, just for the person who did my logo, like on my website, I do like a full day cosplay photo shoot with her. It's like $500 around that, and has a trade. She did me my legal my graphic norms for my website,
Nice.
and she did my logo too. So that's a great thing that you can trade with other big name cosplay who has like a job on the side at the same time too. That's what I found.
So I have an interesting question. This is for everybody, but I'm gonna start with Patricia first. In your own opinion, do you think and believe you can make money by solely being a cosplay photographer in however way you can conceive that being possible?
It's possible. It's possible. There, like I was told by one photographer, there's a niche for every type of photography. It's possible, but you have to apply yourself diligently. You have to be fair in your pricing with people, and you got to treat the customer right because you work off of recommendations and understanding when you give them a contact sheet. I like what Drew said, that he sent it to them so they can see, but then again, they posted everything. So, you're showing them the best side. So just in case something like that happened, I've been taking notes, everyone. So thank you for that. And so it's possible.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's possible. You have to be willing to travel, and also fair pricing is mainly.
Okay. Anybody else want to follow up on that?
Yeah. I really agree. You could make a living off of cosplaying photography because in this day and age, there's a demand for every type of shoot, every demand of every type of stuff for cosplay photography. But the thing is, it's all about the grind. You really have to advertise yourself out there a lot. You really have to
Yep.
really be compromised with the client too, but also keep your pricing fair. Also keep your 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 reputation. Like it goes to any business from comic books to video games to to anywhere. It's all about reputation. It's all about being consistently doing it right all the time, and also really working with the clients, working with the staffers, working with everybody to get your picture and your self-notice out there. Because there is, like, I did talk to 2 cosplay photographers, and all they do is cosplay photography. That's all they do. They travel. They told me they travel to other conventions of Brazil, Africa, Russia, and not Russia right now. Let's talk about that a little later. But in Canada, they go to other conventions and they just take pictures of cosplayers, even just clients on one-on-one or the whole convention itself. It's all about hustle. Basically, I'm just saying is, if you really want to make a living out of something, it's basically just comes down to hustle. You really got to put yourself out there. You really got to do it. And cosplay photography is no different. It depends on fine-tuning your style and how to price yourself. That's what the real key is.
That's some good information. That's really good information. That's a personal question for me, because I've been, one thing I've been doing is struggling of how do you make it? Like, can I do this and only do cosplay photography, or will I still have to do weddings and still hold down a 40-hour job on the side? What is it that I can do? And all the advice everyone's gave, all the tips and tricks, everybody's exactly right. It's about pricing structure, being comfortable with the clientele, and just getting together and getting the clientele that believes in your work and things like that. Like Drew said, you are the professional. People are coming to you for your art style and stuff like that. And, there are certain things you should look out for with certain clients and things like that. But, again, this has been a good experience. I think we've given out a lot of great information. Let me ask everybody this, because this is kind of like a taboo question I've noticed in the cosplay photography community. But how do you approach promoting and branding and charging at cons? Because a lot of cons, I don't know what cons you guys go to, but a lot of the bigger cons don't allow you to solicit service or anything on the premises, or even talk to the attendees online. They will ban you. You will not get a badge. Go ahead, Drew.
Best thing to do for that, have your portfolio beforehand. Go to the blogs. Everybody has blogs on Facebook and all that stuff, and just promote there. You say, I'm gonna be here at whatever time, and then have your pricing. I have a flyer already set for cosplay photography. I literally have a flyer that I'm like, here, pass this out. But I pass it out before the con even go, so I can book. But once people know that they're looking for you and your style, you're good to go. You got to promote, but you got to promote beforehand. Don't promote there.
No, you're absolutely
have
right.
Your portfolio set together. Let them say, oh, I like this person's work. How much do you charge? How can I book you? And then you book, like Philip said, he booked 50 people or something like that already.
15, yeah.
15. Oh, I heard 50, because you see me when you said it earlier. I was like,
right.
No, 15. 15. Like, I will kill myself if I book 150 people.
I thought you were gonna be able to do it. I was
Man,
like,
if you had 115, I'll be lucky for that.
Right. I've had 10 and it was like, man, this is a lot.
Yeah, but have that portfolio.
But it's still, yeah, exactly. It's still 15 hours of shooting too. But yeah,
it is. And then have your portfolio beforehand. And that way people could say, okay, I like that, and they're booking you there. So when you're at the con, you don't have to, like, when I go to Dragon Con, if I go to Dragon Con, when it comes up, I'm not going inside. I'm literally going out everywhere else. And they're like, there's certain places to shoot, but there's groups that are like, Drew, can you shoot? Drew, can you shoot? And I'm like, I don't really want to. Or I'm like, all right, yeah, I'll be available. So, but they looked at the portfolio beforehand. Right. So build your brand before you get to these cons, and then be that guy at the con that they're looking for. And that way you're not out there soliciting, like, yo, you want to shoot? Right. You don't want to be doing that. Right.
I'll say, like, from my personal experience, like, when I started doing cosplay photography, all I did was just take pictures because I was just having fun. But once I got the notion of, hey, I can make some money off this, I was like, okay, let me build up the portfolio beforehand. I already have clientele. I've been shooting people for years. Let me put my best work forward. Let me get some extra edits in. And like you said, don't go advertise at the cons, but like, there are subgroups that have nothing to do with the con. You can hit those up. Word of mouth in the cosplay community will go a long way. So definitely take care of your clients and, like, give your clients that golden kiss, that golden touch during every shoot. That's a this place right there. That's what helped me out. I did one thing in 2017 at DragonCon, made so much money. I still to this day can't figure out how I did it. And I did everything you're not supposed to do. I went to the official DragonCon fan page. I was posting all my prices, advertising everywhere. I got banned from there for a year, but I made a lot of money at con that year. Still trying to recreate that. Does anybody else go to cons outside of me and maybe Drew and other people and Philip? Everybody else here tends to go to cons. Well, I guess Patricia, you don't, since you don't charge for cosplay photography.
Yeah, I go to the cons because, like I say, I'm getting into it, and being here on the West Coast. Like I said, I started with the one in November, and then LA Con. Just went to San Diego, our International Comic Con there, and getting ready to hit up Vegas, and then again LA. This time it'll be more than one day in LA, and that was huge. And so taking into context and writing notes of the recommendation you guys are making, I like this. So I do need to build my portfolio, some of my best shots that people have liked, go to a blog, get my name out there. And so I can be approached. And also as a cosplayer, 9 times out of 10, I have my camera with me.
Right.
Even as a cosplayer, I have my camera with me.
Right. That brings up another interesting question I want to get to. And I know this has been a long podcast already, so we're going to wrap it up soon. So, but before we go, I want to ask Patricia and Jonathan this question, since they are former cosplayers. Wait, Jonathan, you said you cosplayed before too, right?
Yeah, I used to cosplay before.
So what is it like for you being a cosplay photographer and a cosplayer? Do you like really understand what it's like to being on both sides? Does that help you in your shoots and how you approach cosplayers?
Yes, it really does, because you understand how much work they put into it. You understand how much they care about their characters. You know how much it, like every little thing, you know exactly how they feel. Like them walking to place to A to B of a hall, understanding what they want to show off, everything. You know exactly what they're going through. And then because you being a cosplayer, you know exactly how to approach them without being a bit of an ass about it. Like when you see them eating, that's definitely a fact. Like, don't ask them. Don't ask them. And if you see them talking to a group of people, wait until they're done talking and then approach them nicely and ask, hey, may I take your picture? And like I said, like you understand their struggle because they work so hard in their cosplay and they want at least maybe one or a few people taking their picture, even if it's not a pro photographer or an amateur photographer, just some little kid with a cell phone, like, hey, you're dressed up as my favorite character. Can I take your picture?
Right.
You know exactly how they feel when they get that taken to account. So, and I really wanted to answer the previous question. I'll say real quick.
Okay.
Building up a clientele is the number one hard thing for me when it comes to getting jobs. So, and when I go about it and try to get work, I don't solicitate or anything like that. I do like, you know, how normal people with cell phones do. Can I take your picture? As soon as I say, hey, so while I'm here, can I show you my Instagram link so you can look for your picture and tag yourself in it? But I'm also a pro photographer, so you could check my other work. And if you're interested, you can hire me. If you're not, that's cool. But at least I got your tag info for your picture.
Oh.
That's how I do it. But I also advertise the day before the con, but it's kind of hard for me because the two pros here, like I'm really going to call you guys pros because you guys already have everything locked down. You guys already have it set. You guys advertising before a day of a con or a week before a con is great for you because your established name already and they know your work. How is it for me, someone who's barely starting out, that only has 1 year of experience and still trying to get their name out there, that I cannot get not even one shoot in most of the time? Like AX, I was lucky to get just two. And
Portfolio building.
Yeah, I do portfolio building, but because I'm not well known yet, they're like, oh, it's just some kid with a portfolio. Skip him. Oh, I know this guy's name because of reputation and that. I'm booking him because
here's my tip for people who starting a cosplay photography. When I start this this business, I mainly and just like Drew said, on blogs and Facebook. But I always work like some design around, like doing banners, doing a compilation of your best photos in one with your list of pricing and everything. I always posted like those image for at least a month and even 2 months in advance on groups, and repeat that every week too. So is and people were gonna notice you and just say like, hey, shit, he's posting a lot, he's very aware that we need photographers, and you having your own. And also the greatest thing is you can put your information in. And for me, I always do like an event link on Facebook. So I always create an event on my Facebook page, just to be sure that how many people I reach too.
Yeah.
Because the greatest thing about Facebook these days is they give you all the information that you need for how many person has reached your event, and people going to that. And with all of those things, I do have a booking platform, so it helps me a lot to stay very professional, to put all the information that they need, the auto forms that they need to have to, like model release and everything like that. So I got backed up everything, and it just funnel like this all the time. So the best trick I can give it to you is for sure build your portfolio, make digital assets to publish, to do marketing. So like banners to your Facebook page, banners that you can create towards like Facebook groups and everything, and do it a month in advance. like
Okay.
like like real pros, like they only, I think sometimes they do 2 months in advance, because they know this event, this con, you get real book real fast because he's well known there. But most of the people would do 1 month in advance and make sure that they pre-booked at least like a minimum. They try to break even from what they pay for the con and the auto fees and everything.
Yes.
So that's the thing that is most important too, because like if you don't break even, you cannot travel there
Right.
basically.
Yeah, no. AX, I was lucky. I was lucky to get a free badge for working with a website called Nerds.
Yeah,
It's a website service that matches photographers with cosplayers. So I was
yeah.
lucky to get a free pass with them.
I'm sorry. What was
And
that? What was the link to that? Do I need
ner-
to
Nerds
nerds?
Nerds.
Okay.
with a Z,
I
with a Z.
I'll take
Uh,
that on note.
Pulling it up now.
uh, Sorry I didn't give you the link in that one in time because I was trying to get it, but I was trying to get it to you in time, but the link kept on messing up. I think so. They're doing maintenance. Well, let's see if they're done with maintenance. Um, but yeah, I got a badge from them for free, and I didn't need a hotel room because I live literally like 10 minutes away from the con. So I made more than bank with just two clientels only. Um,
So you're at the start, you're very profitable, so you're good. So at this point, you just make money making.
Right.
well, yeah, like having money is great. Don't get me wrong. I really do like to make money off my work, but at the same time, it's like I know how it is to start out, want to be a cosplayer that wants to get blown up like Yahahan and all them. Because I used to dress up as Soundwave, and I'm not talking about like a simple like costume. I mean legit made everything from rubber foam, got on stilts, and walked around
That's
and
dope.
look like a real cartoon Soundwave, like from the actual
Holy
show.
shit.
And I had no one taking pictures of me. I had no photographer that was interested. And I'm like, there's a lot of engineering to this cosplay. You sure you don't want to take a picture of it? No, I'm good. I'm just looking for certain cosplayers. Okay. And to be honest, that's why I kind of gravitate to those cosplayers more. Like anybody makes himself into a Gundam or a Soundwave, they got to get recognized because that takes a lot of engineering to
Right.
walk around and do stuff like that.
Right. Man, you actually said some stuff that can lead me to a bunch of follow-up questions. But I want to just start with this. A couple of tips that I wanted to just add on to what Philip and Drew have said as far as like how to build your portfolio and getting cosplay clients. Let me drop some game on you. Let me drop some real knowledge on you. You got to set your trap. You got to set your business trap, have your website, your LLC, be as professional as possible. I use Honeybook as my CRM for booking clients and managing my shoots and scheduling things like that and payments. That and Pixie Set by itself have made me a lot of money, and I don't care how much those services cost. I will always pay for those services. Another thing, like with your website, make sure your website is on point. Make sure your website has your best work. Make sure your website has all your social media on, and make sure you're doing YouTube. Because if you're on YouTube right now, if you any of y'all are on YouTube right now, you will know that there's kind of a lack of cosplay photography. There's not a lot of channels that actually go and show you how to just only do cosplay photography. You have to learn how to shoot brides and do corporate events and headshots, which all those things are important. You need to learn all those elements in order to go into cosplay, because it doesn't matter what you're shooting, it's all the same thing. You're using all the same techniques. But I've learned that brides want to see brides, cosplayers want to see cosplayers, businessmen want to see businessmen, not one or the other. They're not going to relate that just because you can set up lights and make a good image. They don't want to see that. They want to see cosplayers and cosplaying what you can do in that setting. So separate your business, make sure you got different entities for everything. But the biggest piece of advice I can give you is go where the cosplayers are. Go to the cosplayers group, the POC cosplayer groups, go to the cosplay whatever groups, go to those groups and befriend those people. Not befriend like you're trying to do some evil maniacal things, but just talk with them, see what makes them tick, ask them questions. What are the things they're looking for in a cosplay photographer? I've done all those things, and those were the things that helped me, on top of improving my photography, getting better with the skill set, growing my clientele, the word of mouth. One cosplayer recommends me to another cosplayer, and next thing I know, I got 30 cosplayers knocking at my door, and my entire Dragon Con is full of me booking and not enjoying Dragon Con. So you figure out the problems you want to have in life. That's the best advice I can give, like anyone who wants to get into cosplay photography. And I'm definitely going to make a more cosplayer focused version of this podcast, talking about what a cosplayer can do to look for a cosplay photographer when they're at cons, because I have mixed feelings about it. On the one hand, I believe if you're a cosplayer, you spend all this money on your cosplay and you want to show it off, you shouldn't have to go to a con and spend extra money to get pictures taken. But if you want good pictures, then you gotta open up that pocket. Just to be fair, just like how you spend all that time making your cosplay, I spend all this time learning how to take a picture, because it's more than just pressing a button. I can't tell you how many times I get told by clients, they're not the clients I want to have, all you're doing is showing up and pressing the button. I'm like, oh, well, then we can't be clients no more. We can't work together if that's what you think I do. So well, let's go ahead and get into the final thoughts. Does anybody have any final thoughts, any lasting impressions? They want to give anybody any tips, any questions for me, because I know I've been the one that's kind of been quiet and asking all the questions.
Well, I know I just this one thing when you just said, when you were like, they spend all that money to come to the con, they shouldn't have to pay for pictures. It's like, hold on. So you spent all that money on that costume, you spent all the money on the con, but I'm supposed to shoot you for free.
I don't believe. I agree with him. Like, that makes no sense either, because got to think about it, the photographer's point of view. We spent that money on equipment. We spend that equipment on the lights. We spend that money on gear.
Right.
How am I gonna pay off my pro photos?
Yeah. That's why. This is why I said cosplay for photography needs to be 50-50, because it's half of us doing our part, and it's also half of them doing their part, making the costume and looking great. But the charging, though, it needs to be settled between the way we're pricing it, not just us, and what's their budget. It needs to be like that. Like, here's our price range, but what's your budget? That's a great idea. I like that. I'm gonna end up using that. What's your budget?
But that brings up the thing. How do you learn your worth? How do you know your worth and what to charge?
I'm using that idea, what he said.
Oh,
here's the budget. Where's the budget?
Right.
Tell them to always lead with how much it costs.
And
then inflate that a little bit, and then say what's your budget. And that's right there, I've learned that will cut out a lot of BS for people.
That's what I meant. That's what I meant. I want to use that. What you just said.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for me, it's gonna be a different thing. I mainly what I always thought, and I learned that from my business school when I was younger, is always cost down what is gonna expense you for doing this business.
Mm-hmm.
For example, if monthly it costs you $500 per month to just maintain how your platform is,
Mm-hmm.
you need to make sure that you have this but income to go to your account just with this expense, and you need to mark up from that. So if you say
Mhm.
yourself you want to do a 50% markup, so that means you need to have at least $1,000 to make profit from what you plan to do with your cosplay photography. Always think of that approach. Like for example, sometimes I on my cosplay photo shoots, I don't have the time to do the retouching by myself because I have so many bookings going on, and my business, my personal business, and around like that. Sometimes I outsource this to other cosplay photographers too, my editing things, because I don't have the time to do it. So it's just how you're gonna keep your business afloat monthly and all the time to maintain all your platforms on check, and that's how you can make profit pretty much on pretty much every aspect of the business. Same thing for commercial, same thing for portraiture when you work on retail, photography, same stuff too. Yeah.
100% agreed. 100% agreed. I don't know if any of y'all are familiar with Flash Film, but definitely check them out. This is just they're not sponsored us blurography or anything. They just where I've learned business from. If you are a creative, I recommend Flash Film. Their courses, their YouTube channel gives a lot of stuff away for free. Definitely go there and learn a lot because he teaches you how to make money in being an artist and being creative in your niche.
Yeah.
Again, everybody, thank you so much for coming on. This has been a very fascinating podcast. I can't wait to have everyone back on in the future. Why don't we go ahead and start ending this very long episode? Patricia, where can everybody find you on the internet?
Chief Patricia Photography. I'm on
Okay.
Facebook
Okay.
and at gmail.com.
Okay, cool. What about you, Jonathan? Where can everybody find you on the interwebs?
On Facebook and Instagram is John at Con, JONAT Con Photography.
Okay. Philip?
For me, it's gonna be for me, it's gonna be youngphil.com. So YUNGPHIL.com. Mostly of my work is there, but I do have a blog that it's mainly where I publish my cosplay shoots and maybe some personal project that I did with other clients too.
Okay, cool. And what about you, Drew? Where can everybody find you on the internet?
If they want to do the nerd stuff, that's I drew that social media, Instagram, IDRUTHAT. And if they want like more of like the corporate fashion portraiture stuff, that'd be the AMP image, which is THEAMPIMAGE.
All right, cool. And does any is anybody going to any cons coming up or have anything they want to promote before we head out?
I'm going to Los Angeles Comic Con in December and Anime Los Angeles next year.
Okay, cool.
You know, come to think about it, D23 is coming up.
Yes, it is.
And I'm going to D23 on Saturday and Sunday. I'm gonna hit up Disneyland that Friday. And so I will be there D23 and then Las Vegas Con in September and LA Con in December.
Okay, cool. Anybody else?
For me, if you guys are based from Montreal, because I think most of the people here is in the US. If you guys go in Montreal in 2 days, is gonna be Otakuton. So it's one of the biggest anime event in Canada, and I might be at Fan Expo, but I'm not sure how many bookings I'm gonna have. And for sure in October, I will be at Quebec Comic Con and New York Comic Con. That's for sure.
Oh, definitely, definitely. Drew?
I don't do many cons. I do Momo, and then that's about it. I don't do much cons. I hang out, I hang out with all the nerds in real life, not just cons. So it's like we do daily stuff. Like the con, they do more of the con stuff. I'm more of like I come and I'll take a picture of the people that they met at the con. But real quick, you said Young Phil?
Yeah, youngphil.com. Yeah.
YOUNG
PHIL.
Huh.
.com. Like I think that because the thing about this naming is when I was younger, but I think there's another rapper whose name
Yeah,
is
I'm
also
finding a
Young Phil.
rapper right now.
Yeah, exactly. It's not at the moment. Like I might rebrand this, but I will put my link on the comments on the
Oh,
stream.
perfect.
Perfect.
Oh,
So for everybody, I'm sorry. For me, I'm going to Dragon Con later this month or at the beginning of September, and I'll be at AWA in October around Halloween. And I can't wait to be at MomoCon again next year. I actually have some huge plans for MomoCon next year. But I'm going to go ahead and end the show. This has been a very fascinating conversation. The guests and I, if they want, they're going to be on. We're going to talk some more stuff and just have it up for a little bit before we have to go. But thank you for watching Blerdkast and thank you for watching Blerdography. If you want, you can follow me everywhere on social media, IG, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Blerdography. And you can follow Blerdkast on Anchor, Spotify, and everywhere else where you listen to podcasts. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to this video on my YouTube channel. And I'm out. Peace.